Oh, why don't you tell us about your art career? Because you've been an artist your whole life, pretty much, and now you're doing a lot of
Well,
art. So tell us all about that.
okay, uh, ready?
Yeah.
Well, the way that started, I was pretty good. I was a natural artist when I was little. And when I was in junior high, Miss McFarland saw that artistic thing to me. And at that time, they come out with colored chalk. And it was very, very interesting. She used to send me to different classes at different times. If the other teacher wanted to show a project or something, well, Miss McFarland used to send me there to draw something on a board, just to illustrate, I think, of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I used to go and I used to draw. But this is one example. One of the teachers was teaching agriculture and stuff, and she wanted me to draw corn stalks. So the blackboard was quite big. The blackboard was quite big. It's probably 60 by 50 or something like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A slate, I think it was a slate.
Mm-hmm.
So I would draw this stalks of corn
Uh-huh.
and have the ears of corn showing and stuff like that. That's an example. Well, Miss McFarland come up with this idea that she wanted a panorama piece of art clear around the Y, and those rooms were big.
Mm-hmm.
But the class was, all of the class was going to participate, and I was going to be the head of that. So she passed out sheets of drawing paper. They were oblong to fit around there. And her subject was going to be 24-hour scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to set that up and tell the rest of the students the rising of the sun to the end,
Mm-hmm.
sunset.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to come out with different things. We did a lot of cutting out of project to paste on, and then we would use the colored chalk, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she had the black paper, the night paper, and then the sun, and going to the morning, you know, whatever, however she set it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always had that artistic things, and I could match colors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got married, I wanted to raise my children. I wanted to raise them, not somebody else. And I very seldom had babysitters.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I can count on my first hand 3 or 4 babysitters, you know, that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I wanted to stay home more. And I was kind of strict because I like to watch my kids closely, but they had a lot of liberty in those days. Went out and played every day. They were so anxious to get up and play and stuff. Then, after you got older, way older really, my children, and we moved to Toledo. We moved to Toledo in 1970, and Andre had to move out of the high school that he only had one more, and that was kind of sad, but Andre took it really great. Thomas didn't complain very much, and you didn't either about moving. It seems like you just knew that Dad had to move because he had transferred his job.
Yeah, had to move.
Yeah, just had to do it. So we come to Toledo, and 2 years after we were here, you went to college. And Tressa, I don't know, she was quite young, 10, 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt that I wanted to go back to art class
Mm-hmm.
or do something with the arts.
Mm-hmm.
So the museum, or no, the University of Toledo had a project going on that older people could go there at a very discount price.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm just going to go and try it, see if I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I did some ceramics, and I did some little projects like that at home, on my own. But I went there, and I was kind of frightened. I was unsettled to going into class with younger people.
Mm-hmm.
I says, oh my gosh, what are these people going to think of me,
Mm-hmm.
And went to class, and it was wonderful. They were great to me. They was patient with me, and me going back to school, it was kind of hard because it just seemed like everything was too fast for me, and I had to get into a mood or something.
Mm-hmm.
But Miss Addie and Diane Addie encouraged me.
Mm-hmm.
And Gano, I took design from Gano.
Mm-hmm.
I took mythology from Putting, I think his name was.
Mm-hmm.
And I took
Archaeology.
archaeology. I took a course of that.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit art history.
Mm-hmm.
And Andre, I was making A's, B's, and C's.
No, it's good.
I shocked myself.
Oh, it was great. And this is at the Toledo Museum of Art School of Design.
Of design,
School
yes.
of Design, yeah.
Well, it's connected to university.
Yeah, right.
You know that,
It was in the basement of the Toledo Museum. Yeah.
And so Gano says, oh, you're going to be I said, you're going to be a great artist. And I said, well, how do you know? He says, I could tell how you place things on a sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a great compliment to me,
Yeah.
and it really
Encouraging.
just encouraged me,
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of hard because you're at school at my age, and then you have to think, oh, you got to go home, got to cook, the kids are there, what if the kids are going?
Right.
So I managed with that. And then after you all was out of school,
Mm-hmm.
you come to Madison. Thomas went to Oxford, Ohio. Tressa was at Owens.
Columbus for Thomas.
Yeah, well, he was in Columbus too.
Yeah, and Tressa
there.
was in
Yeah.
Oxford, right?
1 year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, I'd like to get a studio. So somebody in my class told me about Hollywood Art Center.
Mm-hmm.
So I says to Jim, Jim, one Sunday after church, I said, I just want to go down there and see Hollywood Art Center because they're renting space.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there, and they showed us around, and we went up on the second floor in the Gerber house where the nuns lived.
Mm-hmm.
And went to this room, and I said, I like this room. And Jim said, no, get this room, it's better. At that time, Peter Van Schuik come out.
V. Van Scoik, yes, Peter Van Scoik.
Van Schuik, he come out the door, and he says, are you related to Andre Ferrella? I says, yes, that's my son. He says, I taught Andre.
Yeah, art history.
Yeah, so there was no heat there.
Mm-hmm.
It was, they were just starting the Hollywood Art Center, and no heat. I said, I'm just going to take it, for a month or two to see if I like it, And it turned out great to me. I was patient with it, 20 years I've been down.
You're kidding. You've been at the Collingwood Art Center for 20 years? Oh my God. Wow.
What was right, I think after you left couple years after you left.
Why do you use a lot of sewing in your artwork? I mean, you use a lot of natural materials, Mom, from,
Yes,
from all kinds of parts of the world, really, from nature and from things that are found. And you sewed all your life. You sewed all our clothes. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I like different shapes, color, and the nature, and I like to incorporate what I did. I sew, I knit, I can. It seems to me like I did a variety of things that does come out in my my artwork. And I like to. I moved to contemporary because I had to study bones with Diane
Anatomy.
and I know the body pretty well. The body is connected to outside the nature, and I just like creating. Just my subconscious mind takes over, is what it is. I get an idea, and it takes over. And a lot of times I stand back and look at the work, and I says, "Well, how did I do that? How did I do that?"
Right.
And so that's the reason why I have sewing and materials and find objects. I can see shapes and things from different things I can throw away, Yeah. And acrylic. I did sculpture. I did sculptures.
Of natural wood and bones and burlap bags and tree roots.
Tree roots and found objects like photography paper from scraps of my sons and beautiful things that people don't even see. And I try to stimulate other people's imagination. If they take the time to look at a piece of artwork, they could get ideas themselves. So that's the reason why I use so many different organic things,
Yeah, your work is very organic.
Yeah.
So, how do you think growing up in the situation, the life that you had, how does that, you think, affected your art now? You've used all these different materials, you've known folklore, and you've sewed, and all this stuff applies to what you're doing now.
Well, it does come from my childhood because we didn't have very much, and I sure appreciated what we did. We did have. You can look at a piece of material and your mind takes you further. Well, how did this originate, this piece of material? And you start thinking, well, it come from nature some way. It's cotton balls, or it's wheat or something that's woven into different things, And every seems to me like everything I look at, I could imagine where it come from, how it evolved, and even the inners, like the casings of hogs, they're beautiful. We're making sausage, and I look at these cases through the light, and I can see the veins and little knots in them and the stuff like that. And I dyed those, and I could incorporate them with my my work.
It's kind of like you've taken your life and what you do in life and apply it to a piece of canvas or a sculpture or a drawing or a painting, right?
Yes.
If you can sum up in a few sentences what your artwork is all about, what could you say about it?
What could I say about artwork?
What could you sum up in a few sentences? What would your artwork be about?
would be like a natural involvement in my mind that takes organic things to create art in nature, in life, and just in death too, I guess, you know. I think it's one thing about art, like science. You can't hardly separate science and art, but science is nothing without art. It really isn't, because art is the beginning almost of everything. You know, I mean, all the furnishes, all the utensils we use. Well, science, there's got to be a beginning to science. You know, so little germ of a DNA or little something of a DNA, it involves in something. So that's, I think everything involves from art.
Yeah, it's like everything evolves out of creativity.
I mean, even growing vegetables. Go out in your vegetable garden and pull up a root, like a beet. There's the color.
Yeah.
A carrot is the color.
Right. Right.
The greenery, and I mean, gosh.
Right. Pretty amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you've throughout your whole life, I think you've observed nature.
Oh,
and the way things grow and react and affect each other. Plus, you're very intuitive and you have incredible common sense. So to apply all those things you've had involved in your life with the simplest of materials, you've created something pretty incredible.
Yeah, and like me being raised in West Virginia too, climbing the hills. We used to go up and steal some apples from the apple orchard. He used to shoot his gun in the air, you know. We used to steal his, I don't know whether you call it stealing or not. It's people that are hungry. So they had peaches. We couldn't afford peaches, so we took peaches and put them down our bosom. And it used to itch because it had so much fuzz on the peach, you know. So, my God, when we'd eat a peach, we'd look at the stone.
The pit.
And then people used to make, out of the peach stone, later on in life, I saw a ring that was made out of a peach stone. And then, later on, I saw a basket when I come to Toledo. They sliced the peach pit and glued it together. Then, when you eat an apple, the core, take a look at the core. You know, there's seeds. Everything is amazing. Everything.
And you put it to good use.
Yeah, and that's the reason why when I got married, I used to can tomatoes, peppers, and I put those together in my mother's recipe, you know. And we used to go out to the farms. In fact, I took 3 children out there to the farms, and that's the reason why they know about farms and good food and stuff, you know.
Right.
And I used to can green beans and beets. I still do beets today. I can those. I can the peppers and tomatoes, and yeah.
You still have a garden, so you still participate in the natural elements of growing and.
Oh, and another thing, when I was about 16, I used to work in a glass factory. I was a tester for canning bottles, and we used to have a shift, 3 shifts, and we had to change those shifts And it was very difficult for me that night shift from 12 to 6 in the morning or whatever the shift was. I used to fall asleep. But anyway, these candy jars used to come down the line, and every so often of the clock, I'm supposed to take certain ones off and test them in hot water and then in cold water in a freezy one. I was a tester at that time. I didn't last very long with that. Yeah, I must have worked there two summers or something like that, you know. And those candy jars was very popular back then, Andre, because that's how people preserved their
Canning.
foods and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, when I got married and lived on Hawthorne, we rented from this one family, and they just come from Poland. And I had canned stuff downstairs in the basement. I didn't have any children at that time. And she wanted to know about my screw jars at the top. How do I do that? You know, because after they're sealed, you can take that screw fan off and keep canning, you know. And she was amazed about canning in the jar. Yeah, that was different. Of course, that's West Virginia is noted for glass all through, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, you can tell a whole story in Detroit yet. You still have all that to go.
Oh yeah, I could.
We'll do that another time.
I could tell about the riot where Dad took you guys down there to see the riot after the damage, you know, was
the '60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. Well, do you want to say anything to conclude?
The what?
You want to say anything to conclude?
Well, what should I say? I thought that's my life. I just hope my children, a lot of this rubbed off for them, and I think my kids are nice. They respect other human beings and have a nice life, and they work hard. All three of them was educated. Your dad gave you a free education for college, and that was great. We saved money since you was born to send you there. And I think kids will be great when Dad and I pass away. Kids will carry on because you were raised, I think you was raised properly. I really do. Hey, we had some tough times.
Oh yeah, just like everyone else.
I mean, through the tough times and the good times, it's there.
Yep, that's life.
Anybody listening?
No.
Oh.
No. Well, that's good. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
I love you.
I'm done. I'm tired.